there, it's Vanessa Long from sacredphysicality.com, and today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. So here's what I'm going to say. If you have no interest in religion, spirituality, Christianity, or Jesus specifically, then you probably just want to shut this down and put it away and come back for the next blog post. If on the other hand, you're a little bit curious, maybe you are a Christ follower already, or maybe your church hurt. You know, you used to have a heart for God and then something happened with people that cut it off. Or maybe you're like me, where you never had any relationship with God at all. I grew up in a very a-religious family. So not anti-religious, just no religion at all. And while I'm sitting here waiting for my meeting to begin in about 10 minutes, I thought I'd just share with you a story about what it's like to invite Jesus into your life. And the way I wanted to do it was, there is a really cool Christian comedian. His name is Michael Jr. And I watched a bit that he did at one of the mega churches in the States. And actually, I'll put a link to it. It's a YouTube video. It'll be right here. And he was telling a story, and the story turned into, I think it's called an altar call, where, you know, you invite people to come down to the front and actually open their hearts to God. And the way that he did it, the analogy he used was that we're like a house. And we have all these rooms, and this is a pretty typical analogy for how spirituality works. Carolyn Mace talks about it in The Interior Castle, or Entering the Castle, which is her work based on St. Teresa of Avila's work, The Interior Castle, that we have many rooms. And it's about spiritual growth, spiritual evolution is opening up each of those rooms in turn to the light of the divine, to God, so that he can kind of turn it out and see what's in there and help you heal what's in all of those rooms. So Michael Jr. was telling the story about what it's like to be a house and have Jesus standing outside kind of knocking and saying, hello, can I come in? And he said, and there are lots of people who never answer. And then there are some people who will crack open the door and go, can I have a car? And then close the door really quickly. Or can you please take care of Beth? And then close the door really quickly, because they're not ready to have God. They're not ready to have Jesus come into their heart that way yet. And so Jesus just stands patiently outside waiting. And I thought that was a great analogy and a great story, and kind of mirrored how my own relationship has grown, that I did my best to ignore God. I did my best to ignore Jesus specifically. And I have to say that it's really scary doing this blog post, because I have just as many friends who want nothing to do with God as I do friends who are Christian. So I put it off for a really long time. And yet Jesus kept knocking, and Jesus kept asking, and no matter how many times I told him to go away, he wouldn't. And so kind of part two of Michael Jr.'s story about, God standing outside knocking is what happens when you actually do let him in. And so today's blog is Jesus is a really bad house guest. And that's the title that I'll be putting on the written blog. And so I just want to talk about what it's like to actually let Jesus in, and why Jesus is a really bad house guest. And the first thing that I wanted to say was, the end of this story is that I'm really glad I did let him in, because I've changed. I feel I've grown a ton. My heart's been cracked open, and I love it, and I wouldn't go back. But the process isn't always comfortable. And one of the things about letting Jesus in and him being a really bad house guest is, one, he doesn't want to leave. So once you let him in, he just makes himself quite at home and quite comfy. And, when you have a house guest, they tend to be on their best behavior. And Jesus isn't like that. So he comes in and he starts going into all the rooms. He starts going into all your rooms and looking at all your stuff and your wounds and your hurts and the material possessions you've accumulated and the decisions you've made about how your life should work. And he starts looking at them all and turning them over and going, really? Do you really need this? Is this really important to you? Do you really want this? Are you sure this is the right color for your living room? Are you sure that this is the way you want your life to be working? And he gets into every little place and makes his opinion known. It reminds me of, having your mother-in-law over, and she looks in your cutlery drawer and there's always crumbs in the cutlery drawer. Have you ever noticed that? And she looks in the cutlery drawer and says, wow, there's a lot of crumbs in here. That's like Jesus. He looks in every drawer, every closet, all the places that you stuff things away trying to hide them, and he opens them up and he says, oh, maybe we should do something about this. So he gets into everywhere. He doesn't want to leave. And the third thing that I've really found about having him, he makes his opinions known. I will say you don't run out of food and wine, because he's good with that. But he makes his opinions known. So when you have an area that you're trying to hide and you say, okay, well, you can go everywhere, but you can't go in the study, or you can go everywhere, you know, whatever your junk room is, don't go in the third bedroom on the left. He'll totally go there and he'll make his opinions made. He'll make his opinions known, and he'll let you know what he thinks. And I've had this happen in my business, in my relationships, in my health. He's just gotten into everything and said, is this really the way you want it to be? So the end of the story is that while he's a terrible house guest, he's an amazing partner. He's an amazing part of my life. And I'm so grateful that I opened the door to let him in, even though there's lots of times when I wish I was like, no, just go back outside. I'm glad he's here. So if you're curious about what that feels like, just leave a message down below or send me a message. You can go to subscribe to YouTube. You can also check us out on Facebook. And you can go down here and check us out at sacredphysicality.com if you're interested in what it's like to have a life where you have a heart for the divine. Because that's really what we're about. Opening yourself up, finding your purpose, taking radically good care of yourself, and just creating a life that you love from the foundation up. So this is Vanessa Long at sacredphysicality.com with my riskiest blog post to date, although I'm sure they'll just get, crazier the further we go. Thank you for listening if you're still here. And if you have anything you want to say, please share it down below, because that's what we're all about here. I'll talk to you later. Take care.